Hey ladies, all my UMBWs here. I'll put UMBW in the chat. If you're listening to the replay, put UMBW in the replay comment section for me. Tonight's conversation is all about if you want to become a six-figure bookkeeper or a six-figure loan officer. I will admit that I have some notes. However, I didn't get a chance to fully write out all my notes. So I'm going to depend on a lot of you to ask me questions this evening as we go along. Hit the like button, please. And we are going to put our 60-second clock on, 90-second clock on, give people a chance to come in. And then we will get started with tonight's session. Here we go, 90-second clock. Welcome to Black Women Making Money. We are the home of the upwardly mobile Black woman. For exclusive content and invitations to our Inner Circle Zoom meetings, which happen on a monthly basis, you can sign up for free for our email newsletter at bwmakingmoney.com. That's bwmakingmoney.com. Hello, my UMBWs. Welcome to tonight's session. It is officially Money Monday, and you know if it is Money Monday, then your girl Cherie is here coming to you with a discussion, something with regards to us as being UMBWs or upwardly mobile Black women and our ability to either make money, manage it, multiply it, preserve it, not deal with these crazy people out here that are trying to take it from us, et cetera, et cetera. And tonight's session is all about being a bookkeeper or being a loan officer, because I've been both. And there are six-figure opportunities for us as UMBWs to be six-figure bookkeepers, which I helped my mother grow to a six-figure bookkeeper business, and six-figure loan officers, which I'm headed with that now, on my way there now, and I hang out with a lot of six-figure loan officers. So I'm going to talk about both of these opportunities this evening. I did prepare some notes, however, I didn't have a chance to get as much of them flushed out as I would like. So I'm going to depend on you ladies this evening to ask lots of questions. And that way, if I'm skipping over stuff, or if you don't understand things, I definitely want to give you like a real look and a real glimpse into these two career opportunities and talk about the pros and cons of each, kind of how to navigate, how to get into the industries, break into them, things like that. So Shar, first of all, was here earlier tonight saying sign up for an email list at bwmakingmoney.com. I will admit that I have not been the best these days at sending out emails and scheduling our Zooms. Just been super busy, but my prayer and intention is to get back to that. There are a couple of things that I have wanted to talk about that we can't share on YouTube. So at some point, I will start those conversations again. And also, Kat Bravo is in the building as well. So, hey to Kat Bravo. All right, let's talk a little bit about being a bookkeeper, first of all. So, my mother was an accountant for many years, and she worked a lot of different places. And about 2006 ish, she decided that she no longer wanted to work specifically in corporate America. So, she ended up hanging her shingle and she started a bookkeeping business. And uh, when she started full time, but I was part time with her, and I was just kind of helping her out, helping her market and sell and get the word out and things like that. I had a flexible enough job at the time where I was able to assist her with some of that, and um, it ended up growing to a very nice six-figure business for her. Um, and one of the reasons why it grew to being six figures was because she was focused on doing QuickBooks for people. So, if you're not familiar with accounting at all, QuickBooks is the number one accounting software for small business owners. If a small business owner, when I say small business owners, I mean less than like $20 million are using QuickBooks. So that's the super majority of small businesses. So small businesses, at the time, there were two options for companies. They were using uh, um, QuickBooks was one option, and another was a company called Peaches or something like that, Peachtree or something. And I could tell that QuickBooks was going to be the dominant winner. Just like if you notice, like you're getting on like a new social media app, and you're like, you sign up, you start posting stuff, but you're like, this thing isn't getting traction like we expect it to, but this other social media app is. That was kind of what was happening at the time, where I was like, hey, QuickBooks looks like it's going to be the winner. So it's really funny that one day we were both, my mother and I, was in a meeting, and she was giving a presentation to this group of business owners. And there was a third option at the time called MYOB, Mind Your Own Business. It was another option at the time of softwares. And I have a point to the story, which is to find the winning train when it comes to bookkeeping and ride the train, right? So one thing that happens is sometimes you have to say, hey, I'm going to just commit to this one thing and leave everything else behind. So my mother's giving this presentation about her being a bookkeeper and doing QuickBooks. And one man says at the back of the room, I'll never forget him, his name was Josh. Josh says, I don't use QuickBooks. I use this other accounting software. Will you do that? And this was early on when my mom still like needed the money in the business. And she was like, yes. And I stood up and I said, no. The company's name is Carolyn Does QuickBooks, because that's my mother's company's real name. Company's name is Carolyn Does QuickBooks. We do QuickBooks, right? And the reason I mention that to you is because there are going to be times when you're going to have to say, no, this bookkeeping company is, doing X. Maybe you're working with a specific industry. Or maybe you decide not to do QuickBooks. Maybe you decide to learn some other software or something like that. Well, you're going to have to figure out what the winning formula for you is, and you're going to actually have to work with that formula. So there are certain people who do bookkeeping for certain industries. So only do it for the restaurant industry. I cannot say this enough. Choosing the restaurant industry is like not a good thing, right? But there are some people who only do bookkeeping for certain industries that have a lot of inventory. Or there are certain people and companies that only do bookkeeping for churches. I knew a woman once, she only did bookkeeping for churches. There are some people who only do bookkeeping for nonprofits. And I will say this, nonprofits doesn't mean no money. However, if you're going to move and maneuver in the nonprofit industry, that's, you need to be cautious and careful with regards to that. So, hey, Notary World, I'm glad you're in here. So, to anybody who is in here, first of all, like the video. Please like the video. And second, I wrote some notes down, but I didn't get a chance to write like a lot of notes. So please ask lots of questions this evening with regards to these two topics. We're going to talk about being a six-figure bookkeeper and what you need to do in order to grow a six-figure bookkeeping business. And then we're going to talk about being a six-figure loan officer and what it takes to do that. So we're talking about the bookkeeping now. Some people are, again, we were talking about like whatever you do within bookkeeping, you do kind of want to pick a niche. So my mother's niche was she niched down on doing QuickBooks at a time when there were other competitors out there. There were other softwares out there. But I was saying that some people do bookkeeping for churches. Some people do bookkeeping for restaurants. They do bookkeeping for certain industries. They do bookkeeping for real estate investors because doing bookkeeping for real estate investors is different from doing bookkeeping for other kinds of businesses. So sometimes it's the industry that you choose. Sometimes it is the location that you choose. Maybe you work with a lot of different businesses in a certain city. Maybe it's Atlanta. Maybe it's Los Angeles. Maybe it's Memphis. So you may decide, hey, I'm going to centralize my marketing efforts to this specific city. It could be, like I said, an industry. It could be a software that you know. Um, it could be anything, right? It could be people who speak Spanish or people who speak Creole, right? You can select any group that you want. I do, though, like for my six-figure UMBW bookkeepers to select the niche. And you may not decide on that niche right away. You may kind of get a couple of clients and then say, oh, I see the market heading here. Let me go and let me dominate this market here. And that's perfectly fine, right? But you do want to, in my opinion, if you're going to be six figures, find a niche. Find a niche some sort of way. You're saying, oh, thank you. You like the hair today. Yes, girl. Been working on my hair. Bookkeeping for truck drivers is really big also. Exactly. So the interesting thing about a niche like truck drivers is that they have a lot of mileage. They have a lot, if they own the trucks, they have a lot of something called depreciable assets and things like that. So if you have two different websites and website number one says, I'm a bookkeeper for everybody, and website number two says, I'm a bookkeeper for truck drivers and Amazon drivers, let's say. People who are truck drivers and Amazon drivers are going to definitely select your website. And then when they select your website, they're willing to pay a little bit more because you are a specialist in their industry. In exchange for that, as stuff is coming out about their industry, let's say truck driving, as new regulations are coming out or new tax information is coming out, not that you're a CPA, because you're not a CPA, but you can let them know, hey, I'm aware that this regulation is coming out, and you can connect with a CPA like Brian's Tax that can talk to those truck drivers and say, hey, let's put together a newsletter or an email that talks about this new tax regulation and how it specifically affects truck drivers, right? And that's going to help you get to being a six-figure bookkeeper. So, Notary is also saying, I had to do an ID verification today for a CPA. He has a really big house in the Hollywood Hills. Yes. So there is a difference between being a CPA and being a bookkeeper. A CPA, so I was actually gonna go and sit for the CPA. You have to have a certain number of accounting classes and credits, and usually, well, I won't say usually, when I was looking at it, it was about 10 years ago that when I was like trying to figure out my next thing in life. When I looked at it, I had to take 2 years of accounting. And at the time, I only had like a semester of accounting or something like that. So, but you can, I believe you can get an associate's degree, depending on what state you live in. You can get an associate's degree and sit for the CPA exam. Now, the CPA exam is hard to get, but ladies, if you have the wherewithal to become a CPA and an accountant, do that. Absolutely. But you do not need any degree to become a bookkeeper. Anybody can become a bookkeeper. But because of that, bookkeepers tend to make less money unless you, number one, specialize in an industry. Number two, have a group of people who actually trust you and want you to do their books. Um, and number three, you have good relationships with the CPAs that you're working with. Okay. Um, so what else did I write here? I wrote that, let's see, a couple of the pros of being a bookkeeper. You can work from home. All of my UMBWs with children, this is a great career option for you. All of my UMBWs who want to have children and want to raise your children like from home, this is a great option for you. My mother loves being a bookkeeper because she can literally, my mother's a night owl. She could literally be doing people's books at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. No one cares, right? As long as their books are done whenever like you mutually agree that their books are going to be done, they don't care. Okay. Um, Another pro of being a bookkeeper is you can, like I said, oh, I'm sorry, you can do it part time. You can become a bookkeeper and start off part time. So you could have a full time job and have a part time business being a bookkeeper. Will you be a part time six-figure bookkeeper? No. But I have a client now. I've had this client for years. I have one bookkeeping client, pays me $500 a month, and I work on their books 2 hours a month. You heard it right. I've been working with them for years. They pay me $500 a month, and I work 2 hours a month on their books. And you can do that too. So, this is an option for you. Some of you, this could basically, you can grow this to a point where it pays you as much as your full-time job doing part-time work. Like I said, you won't get to six figures with it, but you can do pretty well. So a couple of things I suggest is if you are going to become a bookkeeper and you're going to uh, either focus on QuickBooks or do bookkeeping for small businesses, you should consider becoming a QuickBooks Pro advisor. When my mom became a QuickBooks Pro advisor, there was a test that she had to take. She had to take some classes online, and I think the classes are still online. I don't know if there are any in in a classroom. There may be. You can check your community college, but there are definitely classes online. And then you take a test. And if you pass the test, you become a QuickBooks Pro advisor, and you're able to put that on your website and kind of market it that you are a pro advisor. You're also going to be on their website as well, the QuickBooks website. So QuickBooks is owned by Intuit. So you'll be on their website, and as small business owners are looking for a QuickBooks Pro advisor in their um, their geographic marketplace, like you could say, like for Notary World, somebody could put in, like, go to the QuickBooks Pro advisor, say, I'm looking for a QuickBooks Pro advisor in Los Angeles, and her listing, her name, her business information could come up. And you may think, Cherie, nobody would hire a bookkeeper from that. True story. One of my mother's clients so my mom had an office at one point. And in the office, they had like the office directory where all the businesses would have the names of their companies, right, on there. And her company was called Carolyn Does QuickBooks because her name was Carolyn, and she did QuickBooks, and I named the company for her. So it's Carolyn Does QuickBooks. So it's on the office directory, and this guy comes in, looks at the office directory for somebody else's business because he was visiting someone else in our office building, sees my mother's name, the company name, comes up to the third floor where her office was, and hires her instantly because he's like, I was looking for somebody to do my QuickBooks, my bookkeeping. True story. And he wasn't the only one that did that. That saw her company name, said, I need somebody to do my QuickBooks, and came up and hired her. Right. So, um, yeah, you want to become a QuickBooks Pro advisor. People will find you from the website. They'll find you from, you know, other places, your website, the QuickBooks Pro advisor website, places like that. Another thing that you want to do is you want to and have to network. And ladies, first of all, put UMBWs in the chat um, if you all wouldn't mind, just so YouTube can know that you're enjoying this content. Put a UMBW in the chat for me. Also, I have notes here, but I may not give you everything you need to know, so ask questions. Ask questions, okay? But put a UMBW in the chat for me right now, please. You want to network. You want to network with this. You have a couple of competitors. One big competitor of people doing their own books, right? Another big competitor you have is there are a lot of companies in the Philippines where they'll have one representative in the United States that goes to a bunch of networking events or talks to people, or they call business owners, and then they will ship the bookkeeping task over to the Philippines so they're able to charge super cheap prices. So you have a couple of different competitors that you are going up against. The way to overcome that is you're going to meet local business owners, or you're going to meet business owners in your specific industry that doesn't want their stuff sent overseas. And there are people who feel that way. They want to know that their stuff is being done in the United States. Okay? And those are the people that you're going to connect with. So places you can network in your local chamber of commerce. So when my mother and I got started, I joined two groups. I joined the Chamber of Commerce in our local area, and you want to join the Chamber of Commerce that has the small businesses in it. But here's the difference. Here's the difference, ladies. There are micro businesses that only have 1 to 2 employees. Those are like your MLM people, multi-level marketing, or people who are one-person consultants, etc. You do not want to join a chamber of commerce full of 1 to 2 person businesses. You're not going to get any business from that. The other end is businesses that have more than 20 people. You don't want to be in a chamber of commerce or networking group that has a lot of those businesses because they tend to have their accounting and bookkeeping in-house. Okay? What you want is you want to be in a networking organization or a chamber of commerce with a lot of businesses that have between 3 and 20 employees. That's your sweet spot. Put sweet spot in the chat. Put sweet spot in the chat for me. If you're listening to the replay, put sweet spot in the comments, right? Your sweet spot is you want to join a networking organization with 3 to 20 employees. Your chambers of commerce with 3 to 20 employees. You want a lot of business owners in that sweet spot. Or a BNI or a referral organization, 3 to 20 employees. Thank you for saying 3 to 20 for saying sweet spot. Hello, Kanisha. I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome. Welcome. So that's your sweet spot, right? And Flo Jersey is in the building. Good evening. You're going to come back for the replay. No problem. No problem. Okay. So you're going to network with businesses, 3 to 10 employees. They're going to make typically between $500,000 to $5 million per year. That is your sweet spot. Anybody that makes less than $500,000 per year and has less than 3 employees, they typically cannot afford you or they'll do their own books. Any company that has more than 20 employees and makes more than $5 million a year, they typically will bring their accounting or accountant in-house. So this, and trust me, this is from like years of my mom and I working together and me talking to companies and getting them on board. And we worked with a lot of different industries. I'm telling you that that's the sweet spot. The only time where you could have more employees and still get hired as a bookkeeper. My mother has one client that owns a couple of hotels, but that's like a lot of part-time employees and gig employees and things like that. And my mother also had one client that had a restaurant, very wealthy man that had a restaurant. And she did the bookkeeping for that. But for the most part, that sweet spot was like it, right? The other thing is you want to be in a chamber of commerce or networking organization where there's, I would say, at least 3 to 400, 500 people, 500 businesses, 500 people in that group. And of those people, you're going to have a core community of people who are going to come every month, for example, to the happy hour or to the breakfast networking event or something like that. So when I tell you that you need to be out with this group once a month, they need to see you over and over and over again. And you need to have a commitment, ladies. If you're going to start doing bookkeeping, you need to have a commitment that you're going to go to the meeting every single month for 1 year, for 12 months. You're talking about being a bookkeeper. Being a bookkeeper means that you're going to see people's financial information. Sometimes people give you their credit card statements, their bank statements. They give you passwords to stuff. They're not going to meet you on Tuesday and give you all that stuff on Friday. They're going to meet you on Tuesday and they're going to watch you for 3 to 6 months. And then 1 or 2 people are going to trust you enough to hire you. And those one or two people are going to tell everybody else if you're good and if you're trustworthy. It's the truth. So you need to be prepared for 12 months of like, hey, I'm going to this organization. Cherie told me this is the sweet spot, right? Of of the supermajority of the people in that network has 3 to 20 employees, right? And you're going to go in there and you're going to be seen every single month. If you really want to supercharge it, you'll join a committee as well. And people will see you over and over again. Okay. Another thing is if you belong to a church or you belong to a charitable organization or something like that, offer to do their bookkeeping first. You need at least one client so that people can start to trust you. You can charge less of a fee or do it for free if you choose to. If you can get like a discounted fee, I like that just because when people get stuff for free, then sometimes they do not appreciate it or give you the documents that you need in order to do their bookkeeping. But, that is an option for you as well. So finding that first client through doing, either if you have a family business, one of your family members has a business, or you do it for church, or you do it for a nonprofit organization. All right. Another thing I wrote down here is when you're doing bookkeeping for people, you're going to do the bookkeeping, but do not offer to do payroll for people. Here's the reason why. Now, there are companies out there that do payroll like ADP and Paychex and Gusto and places like that. The problem that you have with payroll taxes, if you agree yourself to do the payroll, is that every county has different payroll taxes. Every state has different payroll taxes. And if you agree to do the payroll for a company and calculate the payroll for a company and you calculate it wrong, you can be sued as the bookkeeper. There's a lot of liability with regards to doing payroll. What my mom used to do was say, I will coordinate you getting a payroll account through Paychex or through Gusto. She didn't do Gusto, but I'm just telling you Gusto or ADP. Um, and we'll set it up so your employees can put their information into one of those systems. But she would never, never, ever, ever do people's payrolls. That has to go through a payroll provider. Okay. A couple other things that I have in here is your best referral partners are going to be CPAs and bankers. Your best referral partners are going to be CPAs and bankers. CPAs, there's two types of CPAs. There are some CPAs who have a bookkeeping group in-house. And then there are other CPAs who don't want to touch bookkeeping at all. A lot of CPAs have bookkeepers in-house, I'll be honest with you, because it is an easy way for them to make good money like all year long, right? But you'll have, especially like some senior level CPA strategists that don't want that. My mother, a couple of her best referral partners are CPAs that are senior level and they don't want to do bookkeeping at all. Okay. Bankers are also another great networking partner because does anybody know the number one issue that people have with regards to getting business loans. If you listen to Erica all the time, she'll talk about this. So I'll give everybody 30 seconds to put it in. The number one issue that people have with getting business loans. See if you all can think about that. And why bankers are great for you to know as a bookkeeper. What's the number one problem people have when getting a business loan? They don't have what? We'll see if anybody can respond to that. There are a lot of people who own multiple businesses. They're looking for loans. Credit, not exactly. Credit is a problem, but not credit I was thinking. Sorry. That's not the reason why they need you as a bookkeeper. Paperwork. Thank you, Kanisha. They don't have their profit and loss statement. They don't have their balance sheet. They don't have their financials up to date. Their paperwork. Paperwork. So a banker, somebody will come in and say they've got a business, right? They're doing lashes, they're doing hair, they're doing whatever it is. And they're like, hey, I want a business loan from ABC Bank. And the banker's going to say, where's your paperwork? A business plan, that's actually how I became a business plan writer, was because people didn't have they didn't have their profit and loss statement. They didn't have their balance sheet. They didn't have a business plan, nothing. They would literally go in front of the bank and sit down and say, help me, I need, $300,000. And the banker's like, you don't have any paperwork, right? But the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet basically are the things that you, as the bookkeeper, helps the CPA put together, right? So, there are two times when people will seek out a bookkeeper. Number one is during tax season. Tax season is here. They haven't done their stuff all year. Trust me, we get the people all the time, right? And they're running around looking for a bookkeeper to do 12 months worth of work before their CPA has a cutoff period, right? The second is when people are looking for financing. They're looking for money from the bank. Phone rings off the hook during tax season. It does. So one of the things I wrote on my list, and this is a con of being a bookkeeper, is that from January 2nd to April 16th, you will not be taking vacation. If you are a good bookkeeper and you're successful, especially if you're full-time, you're not taking vacation from April 2nd to like April 15th. April 16th is the bookkeepers and the accountants take a week off, right? But yeah, that is what I have. Oh, final thing, how you're paid as a bookkeeper, how you're paid. There are some bookkeepers that will bill hourly. And then there are some bookkeepers that will bill like by the project or per month. I know you're going to have a certain amount of entries that I'm putting in or reconciliations that I'm doing or all of that. And you will give the client you'll tell them, hey, for me to do your books is $500 a month. One of the other interesting things about being a bookkeeper is you could bill people, especially if you have like a monthly ongoing assignment with them. You could bill them at the first of the month And you could tell them that their books will be done by the 15th of the month. You can do that. So what questions do you all have about being a bookkeeper before I go into being a loan officer? Wow, we've been on for 40 minutes already. What questions do you have about being a bookkeeper before I go into being a loan officer? You all can also tell me if you have any desire to be a bookkeeper, or if you have more of a desire to learn about the loan officer, you know, all of that. So, what questions do you have though about being a bookkeeper? Because those were all the notes that I had. Notary's asking, how much would you charge? I think it depends on the client. And okay, so this is how I set up my mother's fee structure. Obviously, she was the final person for her fee structure. Number one thing I looked at was like how many accounts the person had, right? How many bank accounts, how many credit cards, just how many accounts, like how much stuff do they have, right? The second thing I looked at was how long it would take me to catch up on their work. Because usually when people come to you, they're not like, hey, I'm done, with everything up to April 21st today, and you just have to keep up with it. No, they're usually like, honestly, a year, 2 years, 3 years. We've had people literally come in and say, I haven't filed taxes in 3 years. I need you to like catch me up. True story, right? Okay. The next question I ask is, how long is it going to take for me to do this? Right? So, let's say you're looking at somebody's work and you're like, I think this is going to take me, I'm just going to say 10 hours just to keep the math simple. The next question I ask is, how much do you want to be paid per hour? So let's say you wanted, so my mother's hourly rate was $65 an hour. The way that she did it is if she was catching somebody up with work, at least when she first got started, she would say, I'm going to charge you $65 an hour until I catch you up. So let's say it would take her 10 hours to catch the person up. She would bill them $650. She would estimate, oh, here's another thing. She would estimate how much time it would take to do the project, and she would charge at least half of that amount. She did get kind of screwed over a few times because she would charge half. She would do all the work, and then the person would not pay her for the second half, the second 50% amount that they owed her. So I'll get all my money upfront kind of girl before I do any work. But that's me, right? My mother was a little less willing to do that. Me, I want all my money upfront before I do any work. And I did that as a bookkeeper as well. All my money upfront before I do your work. So you can look at a project and say, it's going to take me 10 hours to do this entire project. I'm going to charge $50 an hour. You could charge more if you want to, especially if you're specialized, right? Therefore, I'm charging $500. And then you can know, like, every month, as long as I'm keeping up with your stuff, like, I'm going to charge you $500 a month or whatever, right? The good thing about being a bookkeeper is if the person trusts you, likes you and trusts you, you have flexibility with what you can charge. You have flexibility with what you can charge. So, especially if you're doing the work yourself and you're a trustworthy person. Notary is saying, I just took a QuickBooks online class. All I had to do was pay for the book. Callie offers a lot of free classes. I'm not surprised. So, you asked me, do you get paid up front? Yes. I am a get paid upfront person. So today it's a lot easier to get paid upfront than it used to be. You've got PayPal, you've got Stripe. Um, Somebody used to bill us through something called FreshBooks. You could even bill through QuickBooks these days. You could set up a merchant account and accept Visa and all of that through QuickBooks. You can, within QuickBooks, you can actually send somebody an invoice and they can click on the PDF invoice and pay through their checking account or through their Visa or MasterCard. Yep, yep. So, um, so yeah. Any other questions that people have about being a bookkeeper before I talk about being a loan officer? And put a 2 in the chat if you want me to talk about being a loan officer, because I don't want to talk about anything that people don't necessarily want to be or think about. So I didn't think that uh, talking about being a bookkeeper was going to take us so long, but we've been on here for 46 minutes. So, okay, y'all putting 2s in the chat. I need to see another 2, and I hope that everybody liked the video. Can I see another 2, or is Notary World the only person that wants to talk about being an LO, loan officer? Okay, y'all are kind of shy. Well, I'll do it for Notary World because that's my girl. All right. Okay, so being a 6-figure loan officer. Leah's here as well. Hey, Leah. All right. Let's talk about this. Being a 6-figure loan officer, I wrote fewer notes for this, so I really will need you to ask me questions as I go with regards to this. So, about 3 years ago, I was like worn out from being a business plan writer. And I was, saying, I need something else. I want to do something else. Being a business plan writer, being a bookkeeper, accountant, that really did kind of help me with being a loan officer, because there are certain things that I was doing in those industries that I was able to bring over to being a loan officer. Um, a couple of the pros with the positives of being a loan officer is a great loan officer makes 200,000 to 500,000 a year by herself. A great loan officer makes 200,000 to 500,000 a year by herself. Now, when you are a loan officer, you're going to be a full-time loan officer. Full-time loan officer, right? Another great pro is, depending on who you work for, you can work from home. So I work from home. There are a lot of places and companies you could work where you can work from home, or you can go into the office 1 or 2 days a week. I'll be honest with you. Part of the reason why I can work from home and make it is because I had a strong financial background, being a bookkeeper, being a business plan writer, things like that. If you're 22, 23, 24 years old, or you are brand new to financial services, I do not suggest you work from home. I don't. You need to be in the office, hearing other people, seeing other people, being able to ask questions, things like that. But there are people who make very good livings working from home. There are people, being an LO, a loan officer, who make very good livings because while being flexible, having a flexible schedule as well. But once I hang up from you today, I'm going to be going back to work in order to take care of a couple of other things for a couple of other clients. So, there's good and quote unquote bad with that. That you have a flexible work schedule, but you will be working late on certain days. There are other people in our office that will send emails and things like that 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. But we have flexibility as well. If you have a kid, you want to pick up your kid, drop your kid off at school, go to the soccer game, go to ballet, things like that. There is flexibility there, depending again on who you work for. Okay. Um, when it comes to being a loan officer, there are two groups of people. There are people who are licensed and people who are not licensed. Okay. A person who is not licensed can work for a bank, they can work for a credit union, or they could do like more commercial types of loans. Okay. If you are licensed, you can work for a small broker. You can, it's harder to hang your own shingle and say, I'm a licensed loan officer and I'm a solopreneur, because you usually need to have 3 years of experience and you have to have a certain amount of insurance and bonding in order to do that. Most people don't do that, even if they've got more than 3 years. Most people will hang their license with some company that's out there because there's a lot of liability with being a loan officer. Okay. Not personal liability as long as you hang your shingle with another company that's fully licensed, fully bonded, and you follow their compliance rules. So, one of the big cons is there is a lot of compliance if you are licensed. To me, it's a con because, I'm not used to people telling me what to do, much less a government entity. But if you're a licensed loan officer, you do have to follow the laws of the different states that you're licensed in. The other con about being licensed is there are certain rules that if you break them, you can go to prison. Yes, I said that. And I'm not talking about fraud, okay? There are a couple of rules with being a loan officer that if you break them and you are caught, you can go to prison for years. And I think the maximum dollar penalty is like 200 something thousand dollars. It's nothing to play with if you are licensed. Hey, Mentor Shelley. Hello. Put your questions in there now. Put your questions in here now about being a loan officer. That's a big con or a big negative if you're going to be a licensed loan officer. If you are working for a bank, working for a credit union, things like that, they have super strict rules about the things you can and cannot do as a loan officer. Doesn't mean it's good, doesn't mean it's bad. There are certain people who can live within those boxes and those rules. I'm not as much of a box and rule person, so this is different for me. I've been free as a bird forever, and now you get fingerprinted. You do. I should have even taken a step back. In order to be licensed, you do have to do 20 hours of education. That's like to get your like primary license, right? You do 20 hours of education, and then depending on what state you are getting licensed in, you'll have more education on top of that. And then you have to go take a test. You have to pass the test 75%. I remember because when I went in, I drove to go take my test. So you can't take the test from home, I don't think. I think you have to go to a place to take your test. I drove to take my test. I said, Lord Jesus, I just want an 80. And do you know what my score was on that test? It was an 80, like on the dot. So you go in, you take your test, and they'll tell you right there if you passed or not. If you don't pass once, I think there's like a cooling off period. I can't remember how much it was, but if you fail it twice, you have to wait another 6 months before you could take it again. So the other thing is the place where I went to take my education for um, to sit to take the test. It did not prepare me to take the test. I am telling you right now. Your girl was nervous about taking the test because I was like, I don't feel like I know anything. And taking the test does not teach you how to be a loan officer at all. All taking the test does is like you have to memorize like some of the rules with regards to when you go to jail and things like that, right? Okay. So I found this Black woman on YouTube and I feel like I should send her a check if I could. I don't even know how to find her video again. That's not true. I think I have it in, like, I sent it as a text message to some people. But she did this hour and a half session on YouTube. And I am telling you right now, if that Black woman had not released that hour and a half session on YouTube, your girl Cherie would not be a licensed loan officer today. Shout out to that Black woman. Shout out to that UMBW because it's the truth. I'm going to answer your questions too. Just give me a second. Everybody, put your questions in about being a loan officer in there as well. So into the chat. Um, so the question is, should you get licensed? It depends on you. It depends on um, how much of a box you want to be in. It depends on where you're going to work. There are some places where they will pay for you. They will recruit you as an unlicensed person, and then they will pay for you to get licensed. So that's how I started. I started as somebody who my boss wanted to start the mortgage company. We started off doing mortgages and loans that I did not have to be licensed for. And then he said, I want you to get licensed, and he paid for me to get licensed. So a lot of places are like that, where they like you, they'll bring you on, they will pay for you to get licensed. So I will say, as a loan officer, I would suggest that you not get licensed first. I would suggest that you focus on getting recruited first into a company and have them pay for the licensing. Okay? All right. So let's answer some questions here. As an MLO, you can do business in different states? Question mark. So um, every mortgage loan officer, every state has its requirements for you to be licensed to do business in that state. There are absolutely, I want you to hear me, there are absolutely no states where you could be a mortgage loan officer and you do not have to be licensed. Every state requires you to be licensed. Either you're going to be licensed and you're going to work for a lender, or you're going to work for a bank like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, etc. And you don't have to be licensed, but you're only going to be doing mortgages for that specific company. Okay? So, can I do business in different states? I am Cherie. I am licensed in 8 states. And because I am licensed in 8 states, I can do a mortgage loan in those 8 states. Okay. Now, with the company that I belong to, there are other mortgage loan officers in that company that I can bring a referral to them, and somebody else can do the mortgages if my referral, the person I'm bringing in, my client, I should say, is buying a property in a state I am not licensed in. But yeah, and look, and you may say, "Oh, okay, well then I'm just going to get licensed in all 50 states." Let me tell you something. You'll be in continuing education forever. I I'm licensed in 8 states, and by the time I'm done with continuing education, you have to take continuing education every year. By the time you do it, you are exhausted. I know a couple of people who are licensed in like 20, 21 states. I don't know how they do it. You'll want to throw the computer like against the wall, because because when you're taking continuing education, it's not like you could be busy vacuuming and doing other things. Like you have to listen to what they're saying, and then like every 5 to 7 minutes, they're giving you a quiz to make sure you're listening to what's being said. And sometimes they will not even let you listen to, like, you can't get the lessons on your cell phone. You have to be in front of a computer, a desktop computer, or like a laptop, and you cannot be moving around a lot in order to take continuing education. So it's no joke. Um, Leah is saying, can Can I describe their duties briefly? I think I'm confusing Ella with the people who call you asking to get money back. Oh, yeah, girl. So this is not the same thing. So, a loan officer, what a loan officer does is that they will talk with you about the types of loans that you're able to get. Like if you want to buy a house, right? You want to buy a house, they will talk with you about the types of loans that are available. So that's FHA loans, that's conventional loans, that's VA loans, USDA. There are several types of loans that are available to you if you want to purchase a property, right? Um, and then they will take your application. Only a licensed mortgage loan officer can take your loan application. Okay. And then they call it doing processing. They will process your loan application in order to give you a pre-approval. Okay. So you've gotten those pre-approval letters or pre-qualification letters that says, congratulations, you qualify for a $400,000 house with 5% down, right? Your mortgage loan officer and some of the team members that work with her, they work on the back end to get you that pre-approval. Only a licensed mortgage loan officer can give you a pre-approval. Either a licensed mortgage loan officer, or they can be unlicensed but work in a bank, right? And then you go out and you will shop for a house, and you're going to put an offer on the house, and part of your offer package is that pre-approval letter that you got from that licensed loan officer. And then once your offer is accepted to buy that house, that mortgage loan officer basically packages your loan and submits it to the underwriters. And then your mortgage loan officer works with the underwriters to get you approved, like your mortgage approved for that house. So the people who call you asking to get money back, is that for like taxes or something like that? I don't know. Those are telemarketers, but that's not an LO. It's not an LO. Um, so I have a couple other things on here. You can continue to ask me questions as well. A couple of questions that you may have is like, what are the best places to work? I'll give you some of the different places to work, right? You can work for a bank. You could work for a credit union, right? My understanding, because I haven't spoken at length to anybody who works at banks or credit unions as a mortgage loan officer, but my understanding is that there's usually a mortgage department. There's usually a person in the branches where if somebody walks in and says, hey, I need a mortgage, they will send those people to your desk. My understanding is that you make good money from the foot traffic that comes into the bank. My understanding, now I do know this piece of it, is that there's also usually a call center and a group of people that are in the mortgage department that are constantly contacting people who have accounts at that branch to ask them if they need HELOCs. HELOC is a home equity line of credit. If they need home equity loans, if they need mortgages, things like that. And the bank is constantly advertising to the general public, but especially to its account holders. Hey, tell us what you need. What kind of mortgages do you need, etc. So you can work for the bank, right? And there are pluses and minuses to that. One of the big minuses is that if you want to make really, really good money, you're not going to work for a bank unless you're working 100% commission for the bank. But if the bank is offering you a salary, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, you're probably not going to get a great commission for each loan that you close. Okay. Another place that a lot of people work is a place called Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage is the big, you know, it's like working at Walmart, right? It's like the big place where a lot of people can work is Rocket Mortgage. I don't think they allow you to work from home, though. I think you have to work in their establishment, in their offices. Okay, but they're a big call center. It's a big business in the overall loan industry, though. They only represent about 13% of the mortgages, but they're like the big company to work for. And they will hire you as an unlicensed person and train you. The training is very intense over there. You can work also for a small broker or a small lender. Our company has done, I think it's 1.8 billion this year thus far, over the past 3.5 months. So, um, but yeah, there are other companies that are out there that are small brokerages, small lenders, small direct lenders, et cetera, where you can work. There's a lot of opportunity. There are two things that you're going to want to learn to do well. Number one is marketing and sales, especially the more commission you make, or if you're 100% commission, you have to become really good at marketing and selling and building a book of business. And Notary World can definitely appreciate that. If you, take a step back. Two things you want to learn how to do well. You want to learn how to do marketing and sales well, or getting the business. And you also need to learn how to pull a package together and present it to the underwriter. When I used to write business plans for companies and help them raise capital, I learned how to pull a package together and present it to the underwriter. So that's one of the reasons why I'm well suited to be a loan officer today, is because I had experience doing that. If you don't know how to do that, you need to go work underneath a manager in a company that will teach you that skill. There's a lot of rules, there's a lot of guidelines with regards to getting people mortgages. There's a lot of reading, there's a lot of studying. It does take you at least doing 50 mortgages for you to become halfway decent at it. And doing 100 plus is when you really become a professional. And that just takes time, and it takes you working under a really, really good manager. I cannot say this enough. You would do better getting less compensation for your first job being a mortgage loan officer and working with a company that has a really, really, really good training program and who will feed you leads and have you be able to close those leads. So even if the first couple of years you made, let's say, $60,000, and all you did was just answer the call center phone, take loan applications, package the loans, submit them to underwriting, and learn from the best of the best trainers, you're going to do so much better there. Notary World is saying exactly, sales and marketing or referrals are really huge. This is true. You're looking ultimately you want to get to a place where you can go work for a small broker or a small lender, be 100% commission and grow a book of business. But you have to know how to lead generate, market, and sell and get referrals. Yes. All right. There are more opportunities within the mortgage and loan industry. You can be a loan officer assistant. You can be a processor. You can be an underwriter. There's a lot more than that. But the mortgage lending business is like a couple of $1 trillion a year or something like that. It's a crazy amount of money that is moving around, even in bad years, within the mortgage industry. So, you know, that's a place where you may want to, think about becoming an LO. Uh, so yeah, so that that's the information for the evening. Any other questions that people have? Or you could put a 7 in the chat if you want me to throw the link in. Starting to get a little tired today, but if somebody puts a 7 in the chat, you want to come in, have a conversation about either one of these, being a bookkeeper or being a loan officer, I will put the link in for you. So Leah's saying, are you paid a percentage based on loan? I'm familiar with real estate commissioning. Very good question. So if you are on commission, which all loan officers are to some point, you're going to get a percentage of the loan amount. So it's something called points, right? So if if you receive 1 point, that means you receive 1% of the loan. So if the loan amount is $300,000, then your commission is $3,000. If the loan amount is $500,000, you receive $5,000, and so forth. There are some loans that have a maximum. Most loans, at least for my package, don't, right? So, yes, that means that if you help somebody with $1 million loan, you could get a $10,000 check. I, for example, know a guy who specializes, because we talk about specialize, he specializes in working with small business owners and real estate investors. And he specializes in helping those people get $1 million plus properties. So he like swings for the fences and he wants to get those really good, really high commissions, right? So let's say he's helping somebody get a $2 million loan, which is not impossible or unheard of. Then he could get a $20,000 check, right? Now let's talk about what he has to do for that money, because these are typically super busy people. It's very hard to get them on the phone. He has to talk with them in the evenings. He has to talk with them on the weekends. He has to coordinate with their accounting person, etc. So it's not just do something and money falls in your lap, right? But, yeah, going back to your question, usually there's they will give you in your offer letter, like, hey, this is how much we're going to give you in a base salary. And then for every loan that you bring in, you get X percentage of the loan. So, yes. Notary is asking, MLO is the way to go versus being a realtor? Or you're asking, or being a realtor or an MLO? I obviously work with a lot of realtors. My boss is a realtor. I say it depends on you. This is my understanding from the realtor side, you make more money per transaction being a realtor than being a mortgage loan officer. However, I don't have to drive anywhere to make money as a mortgage loan officer. My realtors have to get in their cars if they have like a buyer who wants to go and buy a property, they have to go 4, 5, 6 different houses in order to find, in order to help that buyer find a property. I don't have to do that. I could sit my butt at home, and when you, as the realtor, and the buyer puts an offer on the property, you call me and say, "Hey, Cherie, they accepted our offer. We're ready to go." Right? Um, so, but like I said, realtors make more money. So you need fewer transactions being a realtor. I need more transactions being a mortgage loan officer. Um, to each her own. To each her own. There are some people who are both. There are some people who want every part of the transaction, so they are a realtor and they're a mortgage loan officer. You need to disclose to the buyer that you're both, so they know you're double dipping, but there are people who do that as well. There are some people that I know who are real estate investors who just got their realtor and their mortgage loan licenses so that they could get like better deals. They could pay themselves the commissions, which would then help them with getting their down payments. And then, with the mortgage loan officer, like they would be able to better negotiate the terms for their mortgages. So I've seen people do both. You can tell which one I prefer more, though. I prefer being a mortgage loan officer. I'm not trying to go anywhere. I'm not trying to go anywhere personally. But I know people who make good money doing both. So, any other questions? Any other questions? I didn't see 7 in the chat, so I don't think anybody wants to come up, which is fine. But you all can let me know if you have any other questions. Don't forget to hit the like button because I think I forgot to ask you all to hit the like button for me. Any other questions? All right. Well, I hope I said something tonight that inspired you. Mentor Shelley, you're still here. Thank you so much. Hope I said something tonight that inspired you, got you thinking. Being a bookkeeper isn't for everybody. Being a mortgage loan officer isn't for everybody. But I did want to come and at least share my experience with doing both. And if you want to know more, just put the questions into the comment section when this is done for the evening, and we'll keep it moving. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.